Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here wherever you are on our glorious planet. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia. And the name of the show is Being Here. And today's episodic, Your Big, Big Heart.
You do have one of those, you know. Your big, big heart.
But what gets in the way of it is that busy, worrying mind that's always complaining about things the way they are and wanting things to be different, and especially you.
It includes that busy mind includes the commentary. So we say your big, big heart. And I would be surprised if you didn't have a comment about that. Oh, yeah, it is. Or no, I'm not feeling it so much. Or really, is it big? Or yeah, and other people have trampled it, or whatever comment you have. So let's start by slowing down and being here and listening. Not so much listening to that commentary, but directing our attention purposefully to hear what's being said from my point of view, in this case from Shia's, from our guests. It gives that busy mind of yours a break. And chances are, with a breath or two, you may settle deeply into that big
heart
of yours.
We finish each other's sentences if you haven't noticed.
We do. We really do, which is fun. Particularly because it supports us in letting go of any fight that may be inside us that gets directed to our partner. So if I'm saying something and Shia steps in with something I don't expect, if I let go of where I thought I was going and allow myself to hear him, life gets easy.
But if you have to prove that your point of view is worth listening to, then life is difficult. Because everything becomes a challenge to your point of view. In any event, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about your big, big heart, but I think it would be really fun to talk about it with our guests.
That's right.
And then we'll see what else comes up in the context of the conversation.
I like that.
All right.
These big words, I like that.
Yes. So our first guest is Uli. Uli, welcome to being here, and tell us where you're zooming in from.
Hi, this is Uli speaking, and I'm zooming in from Germany, a little outside of Cologne.
Oh, welcome.
It's so nice to just listen to the two of you. I already feel much lighter just by listening to the two of you to the introduction.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, we're a little bit like Pavlov's dogs, you know?
Meaning?
Well, you know, Pavlov did experiments with dogs about feeding and their salivary glands going off. They got, with the ringing of a bell, they could get the dogs to salivate. Well,
because they trained them by ringing the bell and then feeding them, ringing the bell, feeding them, and eventually ringing the bell produced that response.
So we've known you for a while, and you've been to our seminars. You come with us to Costa Rica, and so when we start talking,
talking about listening,
you fall back into the experience of being that you've developed by attending our seminars. That sense of well-being that lives in you, but usually you get distracted from by that busy mind of yours that worries and complains and thinks things ought to be different.
That's true.
And so when we start talking, you've trained yourself to relax because you know it's not going to be painful.
Yeah, that's true. It also happens when I listen to your podcasts during the week.
That's
lovely.
I'm glad we have them out there for you, because it's difficult to keep reminding yourself there's an alternative to worry and panic.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got a world that's as unstable as our world, and the people around us don't know they can relax into their lives and they'll be able to survive with it. They think if they don't panic and worry, they aren't being responsible human beings.
That's true. And I've also been feeling like that lately, and I don't consider myself a very fearful person, but there were times like 2 years ago when COVID started that I was feeling similarly, and lately it has been that way again
My,
too.
my darling, you are a citizen of this world. We are not recording this on the day it will be released. We are recording this while Ukraine is in the midst of an invasion by Russia. And you don't know, none of us know what direction, where it will go and where it will end. So the world at large and is feeling stress and nervous. Not everybody knows about it, but there are a significant number of people who have deep concerns. It's in the air. You would not be surprised if all of a sudden you smelled baking bread if the bakery next door started up again after having been closed for a while. So there are concerns that you can feel that are not only unique to you, but as part and parcel of being part of this magnificent and challenged world we're a part of.
Yeah, I actually always think it's just me. Like, yeah, it's good to hear that it's general, and I'm also picking it up from the outside.
Well, your nervous system is a very finely attuned survival mechanism. It's allowed our species to exist because we anticipate and think about things that could go wrong, and we do our best to survive those things and pass our genetics on to our children and have them survive those things that could possibly endanger them. But that whole thought process, even though it's beneficial and then it's allowed us to survive, has us be like mice, really nervous and furtive and worrying about how it's going to turn out. So rather than just live your life, you worry about future events based on past events, and you forget to experience living. You get lost in those thought processes, which are not very satisfying. The other thing is this: you pick up the energy of the worries of the people around you.
For example, last night I woke up at 3:30. I was just suddenly awake, and I had a level of tension in me that felt foreign. And then I said, to myself, hi, Uli. Hi, Micah. I know you're awake now. You guys can relax. I know we're speaking later, but just, it's okay. Leave me alone. And I said, well, if I relax here, we're all connected. So maybe it'll give you guys some relief from the things that you find as stressors during your day. And I know that there have been people around the two of us in the more recent months after we lost our son who certainly thought about us. And I know that they're being connected to us relieved a lot of pressure. We're all connected, and we're not necessarily connected in our brains, although we do register it there. We are definitely connected heart to heart.
Yeah, that's very funny, because that was about the time when I started cleaning the windows to distract myself to get engaged in something. It's something that I don't think I've ever done before. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, now you can see clearly out your window.
I'm very close to asking you how to how to distract myself more from that thought process, or
Well, let me ask you a question. In
yes,
this moment, are you in that thought process?
no,
Right. Well, that's because you're engaged with us.
right.
Giving you a plan or a set of tools to how to deal with the future will have you create problems in the future to deal with so you can use your new tools.
But I also, Uli, without giving you any how-tos for the future, what you're describing, you have a thought process that you find problematic. Let's look at those 3 principles of instantaneous transformation. It's so easy to forget those 3 simple ideas when we get a little knocked off our game. And the first one is, as you know, anything you don't want or don't like or wish would be go away.
Which is what you asked us to give you tools to engage with that which you don't want. You're basically keeping those things in place.
Because you don't want it, you judge it, you wish it wasn't the case. I mean, even after I was speaking to you last night, or Mike, I wasn't sure who it was that I was connected up with. I jumped right to the 3rd principle, and that is anything. I know the second is life shows up exactly as it does in any given moment. So 3:30 in the morning, I could not be any place other than awake and aware of you guys. 3rd principle is anything you allow to be exactly as it is without judging completes itself. So I know my initial thing was, hey, let's, leave me alone. I'm in the middle of I'm sleeping. I say that to my cat sometimes too. And 3rd principle, it was like, oh, here we are. Isn't this perfect? I included it. And so if you're talking about distracting yourself from it, for you, distraction may sometimes be a great way to go about it, but other times it may be a version of
avoiding
it or resisting
and then it sticks around. You see, if you avoid or resist something, you're guaranteed to recreate it.
Because even now, I think how wonderful you cleaned your windows today. That's awesome. But as you're relating it, I don't hear any win in it. So it doesn't sound like you actually fully got so engaged in it, you forgot that your initial impulse was to do it to distract yourself. So there was still a resistance throughout the process. So you're not just looking at the window going, wow, does that look good? That looks good over there.
Oops. Yes, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that you find relieving when you listen to our show, this podcast, we used to call it a radio show, is that you allow yourself to fully engage.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are often fragmented. We're doing one thing, thinking about something else or something we should be doing or could be doing. And
yes.
Yeah. And that's not a failing. That's just your starting place.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is this, Uli, life is unfair. Things show up you particularly want. And you have a very tender heart.
And if you didn't, you wouldn't care if your kids were in distress.
And that tender heart, you try to protect it by putting up a shield against the invasion of life.
Mm.
And if you let yourself feel what you're feeling, it completes itself. If you resist it, it keeps coming back. So trying to get rid of your worries about how the future will turn out, that keeps your future worries right there at your driveway entrance. And every time you go out the house, you go right into them.
Yeah.
Rather than go into them and let yourself feel what you're feeling. That doesn't mean dramatize it out or complain about it. It means feel what you're feeling, experience your life. And you'll be surprised. because it's always different. You're new in each moment. It's not about getting somewhere. It's about being here. And
Mhm.
apparently, through Zoom, I see you really quite here.
Yeah, you're very right. Thank you so much.
You know, we can see the emotions play across your face. I'm imagining our listeners can hear it a bit in that last exchange. I think sometimes we try, when you're shy, you're talking about the invasion of life. Part of that is the emotions that come along with it. But I see it like this incredible woven tapestry. You may consider that what you're experiencing now is primarily sadness, for instance, but I see love, I see kindness, I see your heartfelt wishes for the people around you to have well-being. And if you barricade yourself from one thing,
You barricade yourself from all the other things. It's as though there's one tube that all your emotions and experience goes through. And if you shut the tube down to avoid the pain of life, potentially, then you shut down your experience of loving and caring and fun. Did I say fun? Fun. It's okay to have fun. See, that's the other thing. We've been taught that if other people are suffering, we need to suffer along with them. We need to wear dark clothing, black preferred.
Mm.
Rather than celebrate being alive because you are in this moment.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
mm,
You have no idea.
And I know what you're talking about. I know. Yeah.
Did you hear what I just said to you?
no.
Sorry, the last bit I didn't.
You were talking.
Go ahead, baby. Say
You
it
have
again.
no idea how beautiful you are.
Thank you.
See, I don't have your set of internal conversations that mostly pick on you. So I'm not picking on you in my thoughts because I think you're amazing.
I just want to say one other thing in regards to your being in touch with the world situation. We had a Living Made Easy yesterday because we are recording this on a Sunday. So we got to see you yesterday, and you had in your home a really good friend of yours, Marin. You guys were on the screen together. And Marin basically escaped Brussels. She sent us an email about how happy she was to be out of Brussels because there was so much activity and demonstrations in front of NATO for anti the war. So you welcomed into your home somebody who had direct experience of the stressors of this, not only, you know, I can see it on television, I can hear things, but you included and supported and helped take the pressure off somebody who'd been feeling challenged. And somehow when Shai talks about how beautiful you are, you miss that that's part of this incredibleness of you. You just take it for granted. Oh, anybody would do
No,
that.
you disregard.
Oh, it's normal.
See, it's
nothing.
interesting. Us human beings, we usually pick on ourselves and don't see our greatnesses. We see our flaws, or self-perceived flaws. I'm suggesting there's no flaws at all. That you are absolutely perfect the way you are, not when you get better. That's all change, getting better.
Mm.
The beauty of transformation is you step into the current moment and it's all new. It's not like you have to work on yourself to be a better you to experience life.
Yes. Thank you.
You are so welcome. You can't prepare for this moment. You can experience it.
One last thing before we go.
Mhm.
Will you please give our love to your family?
Oh, I will. Yes, thank you.
Please.
With pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks for being with us.
Yes.
Thank you. Really. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Really. Hey, it's time for the listener feedback spotlight.
It's where we get to hear from people in this amazing listenership and transformation community talking about what's happening in their lives.
Hi, this is Maren from Brussels in Belgium. I love transformation. I love Ariel and Shaya's seminars and podcasts because they help me again and again to just relax. I'm a person who tends to be really serious and also very, very severe against myself. I tend to judge myself a lot. And interacting with you, with the community, just helps to relax and actually just see the fun, the easiness in everyday life. I just love it.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We invite you to join us for a Living Made Easy seminar. We have them on Saturdays, Mondays, and also one Tuesday a month. For those of you who speak German, you're listening to this obviously in English, but if you're more comfortable in German, the Saturday and Tuesdays are translated.
Usually translated.
When people come and they would prefer to have the German translation also.
Right.
Our next weekend seminars are two really special themes that we're happy to be offering. The first is
Leap into Life. That's April 30th and May 1st.
I know that sometimes there's a possibility where there's a hesitation or a disappointment.
You know, yesterday I was speaking with my sister, and she's lived in the house she's lived in for 50 some odd years, 54 years, I think she said.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in the process of moving because she sold the house and the people who bought it want to move in. And she hasn't been leaping into her life. She's been being dragged into her life by her fear and hesitation of what the future might bring, being away from a place she's familiar with.
You know, I was working yesterday while you were on the phone with her. I was doing something else, and I heard you say something to her that was so sweet. You said to her, Rhoda, pack and get out like it's your idea. Leap into it. And I also heard her thank you at the end of the conversation because she didn't feel like you were chastising her. You were giving her an option. And I would imagine if I had lived in that home my entire adult life, my entire time with my husband who's passed away, I'd be really reluctant
to leave it. Yeah.
And it was as if you untethered her.
Well,
to the past.
I'm glad I could do that. But, you know, so frequently we get stayed in our ways and we don't allow ourselves to discover life newly, to leap into the current moment as though it's our idea. Usually we're victimized by the current moment.
Now, the course we have following Leap into Life, which is May 30th and May 1st, is New Beginnings on June 10th and 11th. And as you were talking, and then as I see actually both of these themes, Our good friend and a person who works part-time for us, Val, sent us a picture the other day via message of her son Logan, who was on a swing. You know, they have swings now and have for some time, where you can set a toddler in it, and it basically is like a little seat. And he was swinging for the first time ever in his life, as she wrote, his first time on a swing, and his face was tipped back, and you could tell he was wildly laughing in delight. And when I woke up last night in the middle of the night and I was thinking about our guests, I realized that we all as adults often lose that sense of wonder and newness, and you can recapture it. It doesn't have to only be by having children and grandchildren and pets. You can actually,
well, if you leave your
it.
thoughts alone and get here, your life is all a series of new beginnings. And your willingness to jump into those new beginnings determine your level of satisfaction and enthusiasm for being alive.
So we invite you to invest in yourself, invest in those weekends. You're welcome. You are worth it. You can find out about anything we're doing and register at transformationmadeeasy.com. Before we take our next guest, we have a shout out to our friend Dave from Manitoba, who's also being the engineer for this show, so I can look into the camera and speak right to him. Thank you so much for all you do to give back to this community. And in this case, particularly
for your big, big heart.
You suggested this show. You basically, I don't even know if we tweaked this at all. You wrote the description as well. And I am absolutely certain there are people all over the world who are benefiting from your big, big
heart.
So thank you.
Yes.
Let's take our next guest.
Let's.
All right, Micah, welcome to being here. And please tell people where you're zooming in from.
I'm Maike and I'm zooming in from Düsseldorf in Germany.
Oh. You know, I was thinking of you yesterday. I thought I have to write an email to Micah. I haven't seen her for a little bit and we miss her. And then I was speaking to Zoe or somebody yesterday and they're like, oh yes, you have Micah as a guest on your show tomorrow. I thought, well, how efficient is that?
Very cool.
Oh, my.
I'm very moved. I can relay on a lot of things you said. And I was also very moved by when I listened to Uli and what you said to Dave. And I could see myself sitting in this swing chair and forgot about my thoughts and swinging like hell and feeling like as a child. And then at another moment, thinking and being in my, I don't know, the box I created for myself, where I close up to the world. So it was really moving, just by listening.
It's so funny you talk about this box where you close up to the world, because so many of us are seeing each other in boxes via Zoom. But really, I see these boxes for me as boxes currently into the world. They're expansive. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the room behind you and your face, and it's very, very moving.
Yeah. So good.
So what is it that you've been battling with, my dear?
The circumstances.
What in particular about the circumstances have you found challenging?
I would say the last 2 years being in this COVID situation is one thing, and now the Ukraine situation. So I'm working at the moment from home. So I'm a lot of the times at home, and I feel that especially with these little boxes or the video systems, a lot of energy I'm also getting from the outside world, or perhaps it's the energy which is in me, which is reflecting. So for example, on Thursday, I worked for a client and I had someone crying on video and someone shouting on video. So there was a lot of emotion. And I can also feel this emotion in myself.
But, as you're talking about that, Micah, and I know that you are a very valued consultant for different companies. And so you jump into the company to support them in being more efficient and all the things that you do that I'm unaware of. So you jump in to meet people as they are. So you have the person who's emotional, the person who's upset enough to express it in a shouting manner.
Yeah.
And you haven't necessarily recognized what a gift you are, that you're providing the opportunity for people to express themselves, even if it's expressed in a really challenging manner. And the more you resist that or make it wrong or don't want it, the more you get stuck with it at the end of the day.
You see, here's the thing, Micah. As we're talking, you show up exactly as you are in this moment. And if you were sad in this moment, there'd be sadness. If you were angry, there'd be anger. So on your Zoom calls, people show up the way they actually are. And you'd prefer them to be happy when they're not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I actually think it goes back to you, Micah. In a way, you're painting a really broad brush. Of course, there's 2 years of COVID and we're not out of the woods totally yet. We can see the light. There is the Ukraine situation. There's always things at large. But I was thinking about you this morning and I thought you're probably in a challenging time personally. And I'll tell you why. When Shaya and I launched into deep self-discovery, it was right after we accomplished our lifelong, to that point, goals of what we thought would make us happy.
And for you, it was marriage.
So you have financial well-being. Of course, most people always want more money. You have a beautiful apartment. You have a handsome husband who asked you to marry him. You had a dream wedding. It was intimate and lovely and beautiful and everything you could have wished. And then you finally, it was like finishing a crossword puzzle. You finally got it all done. And to our early programming, we think when we finally get everything in place, then we'll be
happy ever
after, right?
Very good.
I love you.
That was perfect, baby.
And then you wake up the next day and you have whatever stressors or concerns or emotions. And for us, it was like almost like a crash, like, oh my God, life should be better than this. I have everything in place. And that's where when we started looking, and that's where we sold our Park Avenue apartment. I don't suggest
She's not suggesting that
you
you
get
should
rid of
sell your
everything. We went and lived in a meditation center. We did all these other things until we discovered the perfection of the moment, regardless of the circumstances.
The perfection of the moment as it is. Not it'll be better when. Better, more, and different are all the arenas of the mind and change. Transformation is really about seeing how perfect it is in this moment.
Now, the idea of more, better, and different are reflexive. Having those ideas, that's not bad. So I wake up at 3:30 and I have the idea it would be better if I was asleep. So my reflex was, at least a little bit. And then it was like, this is my life. I am awake. I got up and I realized my cat was looking at me. It was dark, but I picked her up. She purred for a moment, and then she didn't want to have anything to do with me. So it was lovely. And then she came and got me 4:30, and then it was lovely. And then she came at 7, and it was lovely. I mean, like, I didn't get up until a little bit after that, but it was, to the degree that I allow myself to either relax in
To
or
surrender into the moment.
leap into it like it's my idea, life becomes this exquisite adventure. And that includes emotions. Sadness.
And you think you should, when you become enlightened, you will be free of those pesky emotions, especially, sadness. The other one that is really pesky is love.
I know by the time this
Airs?
it'll have been a while, but I was working on the newsletters and articles of the month and the articles for the Living Made Easy on Demand and also the blogs. There's just a lot of moving pieces to our business. And it came to be about 4 or 5 days before everything was to be released for the March 1st. And I realized our friends over at Tag Online, who support us greatly, and Kevin, shout out to you, he called me up and said, do you have a moment? I have all these pieces that aren't ready. And I could have sworn they were ready. And I looked, we have this really great spreadsheet put together by Colleen, shout out to you. Valid worked with me, look, all these different people. And I looked and it wasn't done. And I realized that our son's death, the memorial this past month, all of the different things, I was more knocked off my game than I thought I was. I thought I was doing pretty well. And I have to say,
well, you were doing pretty well.
I was doing well, but I have to say how grateful I am that I had a safety net of people who not only didn't judge me, but cheered me on and said, it's been more than a year since we were this late on anything. Look how good we're doing. I mean, it's just sweet, sweet, sweet. My world is sweet. And it includes being kind to myself. And that tends to replicate itself out. And I have a feeling that in the privacy of your thoughts, you become hard on yourself, and then you don't reach out to your safety net to support you in dropping back into that big, big heart of yours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And darling, this is to be celebrated. You see, when you discover that you've fallen out of the moment, that's something to celebrate, because then you can find your way. You have already found your way back to the moment. Otherwise, you wouldn't know you were out of it. Instead of chastising yourself when you get lost, congratulate yourself that you discovered that you're lost. I remember once when I was living in Maine, this is like 50 years ago, I was walking through the woods, there's snow on the ground, and it was a very gray day, and I didn't have a compass. And I realized I was lost when I came across my tracks in the snow, because I thought I was going straight and I made this big loop and I came back to where I started. You know, we can get lost so easily. You follow a thought and you're out of the moment.
But again, kindness is key.
If you're gentle with yourself.
I've seen you plenty of times, Michael, where you've really had your shine on and your gloss on and you have it all together. And I see so much more of you today. You are just so beautiful. You absolutely underestimate who you are and how radiant you are.
And the difference you make in the lives of people who know you.
Selber.
You guys are that means takes one to know one. Thank you so much. I felt that. I really see it all the time on a Living Made Easy on a Saturday or a Monday or a Tuesday, where somebody who we haven't seen for a little bit will show up and everybody's like, oh, my guy, or oh, whoever, people underestimate how loved they are. You who are listening, you absolutely underestimate how loved you are. That's not a failing on your part. It's just part of being human. It is. How you doing now, Lovey?
Much better. Lighter.
Give our love to Stefan.
I will. I will.
Yeah. Really a treat being with you today.
Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you can leave a review. But also, if you want to be a guest like Micah was today, or like Uli was today, you can write to us. We'll be happy to have you as a guest on the show. And for those of you who've been guests, something Dave told us recently, who we just did the shout out to, is that he encourages people to listen, and he often sends them episodes that he's been on because he feels it makes it more personal. So for those of you who've ever appeared on our Being Here show, that's also something you can do. It is quite intimate, or a show that touches your heart. You can create a link, send it off to people.
You say show, and I fill in with podcast also.
It's my old
it
verbiage.
used to be we had a radio show through an internet radio network, but now it's our podcast.
Well, it's interesting. I think part of why the word show is reemerging so much is I'm aware that in about a month from when this airs, this will have been 15 years of our producing this podcast, 15 years of being here on the air as a support system for people. I know we've grown. I know our listeners have grown.
Yeah, it's a resource for people to check in whenever they want to, need to, feel to, so they can reconnect with the possibility of transformation rather than get lost in the desire to change the circumstances, thinking that will make them feel better.
Before we announce next week's episode and end the show, this episode today will be airing right before Passover and Easter, and time when a lot of us spend time with our families or wish we were spending time with our families. And I feel to say that this is a time where you can go back to what Shai was talking about at the beginning, what we were expressing about listening. You can let go of knowing who they were, let go of your history, be kind to yourself, and actually listen to those around you. It would be a gift.
And discover who they are, not who you thought they were.
Next week's episode, perfectly enough, is called The Listening Leader. How to lead by listening. It's going to be really good. And we'll be back next week.
So come on back.
And don't miss
Being here.